young girl, scarcely 16. Thanks to my parents, lots of places I've seen, but never a place that I love as well as my Virgio home 'neath the maiden tea hill. My Virgio home, that heaven of mine, the home of my parents, so loving and kind. I love them so, and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden tea hill. The harbor's so pretty in the morning sunshine, as the seabirds and robins their sweet notes entwine. The fishing gulls shine in the water so still, here in my home 'neath the maiden tea hill. When I had trouble or if I was sad, I always found comfort from good friends I had. They knew that I loved them and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden tea hill. My Virgio home, that heaven of mine, the home of my parents, so loving and kind. I love them so, and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden tea hill. With her fishery failing, I may have to roam. Dear God, how I'd hate to leave my dear home, but each night in memory, sure I'll see it still. My Virgio home 'neath the maiden tea hill. My Virgio home, that heaven of mine, the home of my parents, so loving and kind. I love them so, and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden tea hill.
Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight's stories include the Lions and RCMP spoke with students about drug awareness. The Student Council at St. John Central High hosted a panel discussion on drug awareness. Constable McDougall will be here with the court report. The Burnett's Telethon was a huge success. These stories and more coming up after these words from tonight's sponsor.
You know, Custom Carpet Busy's favorite shop, because they got tons of colors of cushion flooring and carpet to match their paint. Sure, they'll even help you to pick out the wallpaper and borders to match your paint and flooring. If somebody wants to make their own talk of the town, they should go to Custom Carpet, because, old man, they got the goods to do it with, and they're more than happy to help. Know something? Once again, old Bessie is right. Just wish she'd go and get some grub once in a while.
Last week was Drug Awareness Week. In addition to the videos we aired throughout the week, Corporal Matheson of the local RCMP detachment and Lion Ron Green spoke with students at A.J. Matthews School and St. John Central High about drug awareness. We caught up with them during their visit to the grade 5 class.
Anybody tell me what week this is?
Drug awareness.
You guys can make the decision. Are cigarettes easy to get, Virgil?
Yeah. Everybody does.
Everybody does it.
I never buy it.
In Burgeo, I think the amount of smoking is probably
Increase.
it's high, some of the highest I've ever seen in any place I've ever been. Why is that, I wonder?
A couple people used to smoke, and then everybody smoked.
Just seemed to be a habit, and
Because their friends got them to try it, and they got them to their friends to try it, their friends and their friends and their friends.
how many people here think smoking is a good thing to do?
Me? That way.
What? No, Victor. Does anybody think it's a good thing to do? You know what happens when you smoke?
Your lungs turn dry and there's a thing in that tobacco tar.
Fingers can get yellow, right?
What do stores sell if they it's going to hurt you?
Well, stores, that's a
The
good
government
question.
gets a lot of money for it and it sells easily.
Well, there's a good answer. Okay, let's just look through it, and we'll talk a little bit about the most common ones, okay?
Tobacco.
Well, yes. Where's the tobacco? I would say this is one here, that's, in my opinion, is one of the most common ones in Burgeo amongst the youth, the teenagers. So that's tobacco. Everyone knows what tobacco is. We have alcohol. Now, it just shows you a picture of what's this?
Beer, wine,
And liquor. So that's, I would say, is probably the second most common in Burgeo. Would you think so?
Yeah.
And I would say, well, close in popularity in Burgeo is what?
Ash oil.
Ash oil.
Do you drink that or something?
Drink that? No. See the cigarette here? This is a normal cigarette, okay? This is hash oil. This is a cigarette that has been put or dabbed in the hash oil, and they smoke it, and they inhale the hash with the with the smoke. So that's what that cigarette there is. See the black?
Yeah.
It's just, well, it's not necessarily exactly like that, but that gives you some idea of how they do hash oil. Anybody ever see this? This is a joint.
Yeah, what was that on TV?
That was, yeah, very good. That was like it was on the movie, wasn't it? This is a joint, and it's not made up of tobacco. It's made up of, it's usually rolled up marijuana, and then they smoke that. And what do you think this is for?
Cocaine. Cocaine?
Well, that's a good guess.
Cocaine?
No, that's another good guess. This is a knife that they use, what they call hot knifing.
Well,
They take the hash and they burn it, put a flame underneath it, and ingest or inhale the smoke. So that doesn't sound very good, does it? No. You know what I think you should use a knife for?
Butter
your toast. Yeah.
The Student Council at St. John Central High organized an interactive panel discussion about drug awareness on Wednesday evening as part of Drug Awareness Week. The panel consisted of Kevin Dunphy, school guidance counselor, who was the moderator, Julia Young, public health nurse, Ken Fleming, pharmacist, Julia Benoit, class representative, Amanda Young, student council vice president, Candy Warren, class representative, Ron Green, representing the Burgeo Lions Club, and Corporal Paul Matheson of the local RCMP.
We were talking about problems that result as from drinking, and we talked about medical problems, but there's other problems. We're talking about crime and violence. There's one that comes to mind. How about I'm not so sure there's a problem in Burgeo, but I know when it comes to teenagers and sex, does it become a problem? Does drugs and alcohol play a part there, in anyone's opinion? Public health, maybe have you got any opinion on that one?
Well, it probably does. Like, if people are drinking, well, it decreases, it changes their mental status, and they can't judge appropriately, so then they may get involved. And if they're in such a situation and they're receiving the pressure, then they can't handle saying no so well if they're intoxicated, or not so much intoxicated, maybe just slightly got a few drinks in them or whatever, and slightly buzzed or whatever you want to call it. So they can't seem to say no, and therefore probably put themselves at more risk and having sex, and then they might not be able to think properly either and forget about having safe sex, and then it could cause problems there. Unfortunately, having teenage pregnancy.
As well as, not to mention STDs and AIDS.
STDs and AIDS, and so that can lead to there. And another thing about, with sex, not just so much teenagers too, but older people, young adults who are trying to get pregnant, and then they've been drinking or had a substance abuse somehow, they can decrease their chances of getting pregnant, or if they do get pregnant, it can cause more problems. even before they even get pregnant. And of course, everybody knows about the multiple problems if
Of
you
drink,
drinking or using substance abuse while you're pregnant. So.
Yeah, I read somewhere today actually that even one drink during your pregnancy could be enough to cause physical problems, the development of a child, or mental, physical and mental development.
And it's often more dangerous when you're in your first trimester and the first 3 months. So.
Okay.
Kevin, I'd just like to ask Julie a question. What are some of the effects of just ordinary cigarette smoke while you're, during pregnancy?
There is a lot of problems related to that. A lot of babies are born underweight, and if you ever call intrauterine growth retardation, or IUGR, so that's just problems with the baby being too small, and their lungs being too small, and just being immature systems, and the babies can be born too early. But then again, is all this is what research shows, and then there's another person who smoked all throughout the pregnancy, and they had their baby, and the baby was born, 8 pounds or whatever, and then they say, well, it's a good thing I smoked because my baby would have been too big, right? But there's always an exception. So there's somebody who may smoke all throughout the pregnancy and not have a problem, but that most likely it's a lucky person who doesn't have problems. And then maybe later in life, that child might develop asthma or develop some kind of lung condition, and they'll wonder why.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty interesting topic we're on now, because I've also read about, actually no, it was a film that I watched, that said that in males as well, it can have effect on sexual hormones and stuff. I guess it can reduce your...
it can reduce your potency and it can reduce your sexual drive. Okay. And actually, make you turn you off from it altogether, right?
So I guess the more continued use,
continued use, certainly.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to add what Julie said too, under the influence of alcohol and drugs, young people might end up in a situation where they'd have sex where they wouldn't really want to, which leads to, more problems in the fact of everything that she mentioned, plus the fact of just even guilt the next day, after coming off the drugs and whatnot, and which then when that bears on your feeling, you tend to use more drugs.
Yeah.
To hide those feelings, right?
That does get us into pretty something I was wanting to lead into. Actually, looking at the next day and the depressed feeling, and then the desire to go back and use the drug again because you're looking for that happy feeling that you had last night, say, or whenever. It might have been today, but the case is you're looking for this happiness again, I guess, and so you start off experimenting. So we're talking about I'm getting into, I guess, the stages of dependency or abuse, and I was going to turn that question to Ken Fleming.
Certainly, there's a lot of stages of use. It usually begins experimentally by young people. They're just trying it out for the first time, just to find out what it's all about. And, there's certainly much of it. It's probably anywhere from 60 to 70% of the young people will probably at one point or other try these, alcohol and drugs. As far as what you can do about that, I honestly don't know, but if it becomes something of what they call regular use, which is kind of like a next stage, which becomes a regular Friday night thing or a weekend thing and whatnot, when a student actually probably has to lie to their parents about where they're going, where they're hanging out, who they're hanging out with.
They're probably having, I just want to cut in here for 1 second. Yes. They're probably having trouble at that point having fun without it.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to go do anything because, you can't get that level of enjoyment because, like we talked about earlier, you're crashing lower than normal, right?
That's right. Well, what it is they perceive that they need this to have fun. Because as you were saying, it becomes associated with a good time. When in actual fact, though, they probably don't know, they don't realize they can have a good time.
Students at A.J. Matthews School were also involved in a poster contest that was being sponsored by the RCMP and Department of Social Services. Posters from students in grades kindergarten through grade 6 were on display at A.J. Matthews School this past week as part of Drug Awareness Week. Stay with us. There's more of This Week in Review coming up in just a moment.
Moles, I'd like to have some self-stick floor tile to go down in my basement.
Do you think they got any up to custom carpet?
Moles, don't you talk so loose with all hundreds of different colours of carpet and cushion floor they got to choose from up there. You know they can't self-stick tile.
We went up to see. Good gracious. They got some of the prettiest tiles I ever set me two eyes on. Black marble, white with burgundy diamonds, white with green diamonds. That's just to mention a few. And on top, guess what? They got wallpaper and borders to match too.
Our regular weekly broadcast did not air last night due to the Burnett's live telethon here on BBS. The goal of the telethon was $16,000. Did they reach their goal? Let's have a look at their final total.
Perhaps if we could get the camera in to zero in. We have the people from the organizing committee that were here tonight. We've now gone way over. We've blown the top right out of that thermometer, and you can probably see on your screen there, we've actually raised $30,878. Absolutely amazing amount. Now, I guess I have to ask Cynthia, since you put so much, your team has put so much work into this over the last couple of months, what's your reaction?
I tell you, it's well worth the effort, and it's more than we expected today. So thank you, everybody, towns, surrounding communities, and all the way to the people at the Calgary. We thank you very, very much.
Yes, I guess that's one of the important points that we should make, that this, in actual fact, was a whole regional event here tonight. The fact that you have this equipment now is in no short measure to the fact that communities from Francois through to Grey River, Ramia, Burgeo, and Grand Brit, as well as all of the former residents of this area who are out in BC, Calgary, Charlottetown, all the way across Nova Scotia, every one of the provinces in Canada did really do the contribution that made this a possibility. So we would like to thank them before we close out tonight. Now, I guess you should probably say the last words, and I would probably say perhaps the last words, given for me, given Mayor Marks indicated I may be invited back sometime in the future. I would say that I was really honored when Glenn called me back early in the fall, asked if I would be interested in coming down and getting involved with the telethon. I didn't have to hesitate at all. I just found a way of clearing the calendar and came and did it. I think it's something that I'd always like to do in terms of being part of this community. I'd always like to think when I come here, I'm coming home. I treat it like home, and I get treated like that way when I'm here. So thanks very much for the invitation, Glenn. With the school boards changing now in the next little while, I don't know if my visits to this area are going to be as frequent as they have been, but they certainly won't stop. Okay. So feel free to call on me at any time.
Okay,
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, Lloyd, as you're aware, we never did think that we were going to come to this amount of money today. As a fire department as a whole and the Burnetts, we have talked on this Jaws of Life for years, basically. And when this accident happened on the Burgeo Road, myself included, we were off to Ramia, with 10 of us were off to Ramia doing training through the Fire Commissioner's office. And the rumor went around town that we were off to Ramia and we had a Jaws of Life, and it was off to Ramia. But we didn't have a Jaws of Life. All we had was our personal fire protection clothing that that the town supported and we raised funds for as well. So when we came back from Ramia, myself and Laura and Bruce and Cynthia, we got together and said, people said that Burgeo had a Jaws of Life, let's make it a reality. So that's what we sat down and we decided that's what we would do. We contacted our Mayor Marks to let him know what we were planning on doing, rather than because the fire department is under the town, and the town do support the fire department, fully. As far as I'm concerned, they do what they can for us, and we let the Mayor Marks know what we were up to, and we contacted a few of the companies that supplies this Jaws of Life. We contacted the fire commissioner, and he faxed us back information that we basically would need for Burgeo area, which was approximately $16,000. That's what roughly, they said you could possibly get by with that. So then we let Mayor Marks know what we were doing, and before we closed down in June, not necessarily closing in June, like when the summer come up, I mean, a lot of fellows wants to go on their holidays and what have you. That's when we started to work. We had a joint meeting, the firemen and the Burnett's, and we decided this is what we would do. Myself and Laura and Bruce and Cynthia would look after it, try to go through it, and it would be a Burnett project. And as far as I'm concerned, the Burnetts have done excellent.
Fantastic job.
Exactly.
November is Diabetes Awareness Month. We will be airing videos about diabetes throughout the week. I also had the opportunity to speak with Diabetes Education Coordinator Hope Wiseman earlier today about diabetes and the importance of diabetes education. Speaking with me today is Hope Wiseman, Diabetes Education Coordinator, and Donna Byrne, Vision Rehab Worker with the CNIB. First of all, I'd like to thank you both for speaking with me. Hope, what are some of the signs that a person may have diabetes?
Well, some of the normal, or what we say, the obvious signs would be that they were thirsty, going to the bathroom frequently, tired, blurred vision, and loss of weight. But then not all of the patients get this. Generally, people who are in the younger age group and what we call a type 1 diabetic would manifest these symptoms, and they seem to come on very, very quickly. A type 2 may have all of these symptoms, or they may not have any symptoms at all, or they just may have a few of them. Some of the people who are in the older age group who get diabetes, they do have are thirsty, and they complain of being very, very tired. And sometimes they're picked up on just a routine checkup with their physician.
Okay, so what should a person do if they think that a diabetic is having a reaction?
Well, a reaction is what we call a low blood sugar or hypoglycemia, which is the other end of the coin from a high blood sugar. And that is something that occurs very, very quickly. And the people feel weak, shaky, sweaty, which are some of the obvious signs. To the person who is having the reaction, sometimes their vision is blurred. And everybody is unique in that they have a couple of these symptoms that are unique to them. On the other hand, a family member or a good friend or somebody who knows them well will notice that their color is changing. In other words, they pale. And sometimes that is even more evident or more obvious before the person themselves feels the shakiness and whatever occurring. Some people complain about getting a headache, and it's a different headache than the headache that people get when they have high blood sugars. The headache they have when they have high blood sugars is like a heavy head, and it's a constant, whereas they may get a headache when their blood sugars are too low. In other words, they don't have enough of sugar in their bloodstream, and they have too much insulin. But it's a headache that comes on very, very quickly. If they feel that they're low, then they should take something sweet. Namely, they take some juice or some regular soft drink or whatever. Or if they're traveling or whatever they're doing, wherever they are, they should always have something with sugar in their pocket, like Lifesavers or something like that. If they are, if it's just before they're going to eat, say have a meal or a snack, all they need to have is some juice, what we call a fast-acting sugar, and then sit down and eat. If they are 1 hour or more away from a meal, then they have some juice, but they also have what we suggest as a starch and a protein, which is namely, say, crackers and cheese, or a slice of bread and peanut butter, or a slice of bread and cheese, or a slice of bread with, say, a slice of ham or something like that. Because just because they've treated them doesn't mean to say that they may not go low again, and they need something that is constant and that will, have a gradual rise in their blood sugars. And they should also, if they have a monitor and they're at home and the monitor's with them, then they should check their blood sugars and see what it is.
Okay, you're working with the Lions Club to put off a blood screening clinic. Should people be tested regularly for diabetes?
Yes, anybody who has a family history of diabetes should be checked at least once a year. And if they have any symptoms, and say if they've been tested and their blood sugars are fine, even if it's a month later or 6 months later before the year is up, then they should go and get rechecked, because there's always the possibility that they may have diabetes.
Okay, there are a large number of diabetics here in Burgeo, a lot of whom have never visited the Diabetic Education Centre in Corner Brook. Can you briefly tell those people what happens when you come to the Diabetic Education Centre for diabetic education classes?
We try to accommodate the person who has diabetes and who wants to come in, especially from long distance away, namely Burgeo, Ramia, Francois, and all the other areas. And we try to get them in at a time that's convenient for them. And we do an assessment. In other words, we ask them all kinds of questions about where they live and family history and when they were diagnosed and so on and so forth. And then we have the dietitian see them and do a diet assessment and give them a meal plan that is for them, that suits their needs, suits their lifestyle and whatever. If at the time when they come in we are having what we call our 2-day education classes, then in the next day after the pre-assessment, then they will have all their routine blood work that will be done by the lab. And then they will learn things about their diet. They will hear about what is diabetes, what the treatment plan is. They will learn all about where the hidden fats, the hidden salts, the hidden sugars are in the foods. They will learn about how to treat themselves sick days when they have like flus or colds, any kind of a brief illness. And they will also learn as to what they should do when they're traveling, whether they're on insulin or whether they're on diet or whether they're on just on the pills. And they will also learn about some of the side effects or the complications of diabetes, which are many. They will also learn how to give their insulin, how to check their blood sugars, and we will go over the treatment of low blood sugars and high blood sugars also. And we go into a little bit more in depth than we would say at a 1-hour a visit. Following that, then at one time they would come back to Corner Brook, but from now on they will be seen in follow-up here. The people in this area will be seen in Burgeo, and the arrangements will be made by the nurse here that she will have them come back in for a recall. And at that time, then they will have their blood work done previous to coming in. And any other thing that they would, that will be needed to help to maintain their control.
Okay, Donna, can you tell us what your role is as a vision rehab worker?
As a vision rehab worker, we try to go into the homes and help the people with the vision that they have left. CNIB is not just totally blind people. There are people who are visually impaired. They have some of their vision left. And we're trying to enhance that by different low vision aids that we use. And lots of times we get really good results with this.
Okay, one of the complications for many diabetics is vision-related problems. What can a diabetic do to prevent these complications?
Diabetes is the number one cause of vision loss. And diabetics can be, they should be really taking care of their diabetes, one, having their regular checkups with their doctors about their diabetes and going to their diabetic educator. And also they should be, they should be having their ophthalmology checkups also. With their ophthalmologist, they should be checking every year. And if he decides that they should be coming back on a 6-month basis or whatever, they should keep up with this.
Okay, is there anything else that either of you would like to add?
I would just like to say that anybody who has a family history, that it is important that they have a checkup once a year. And anybody who has diabetes, that it is important that they come to a clinic at least twice a year, and they also see their physician twice a year. They have regular blood work, and they also, like Donna just said, that it is important that they do see the ophthalmologist. And by the ophthalmologist, some people get confused with an ophthalmologist and optometrist. An ophthalmologist is a medical doctor who has 4 extra years of medical practice in that area. And the idea is for them to look at the back of their eye and to see that the eye is healthy. So I think prevention is a big part of treatment.
I'd also like to say too that with the CNIB, one of the other things that's very important too is a blind person and being able to approach these blind people. A lot of people kind of skirt around them because they are blind, and if they just took the time to speak to them, these people can't see naturally. So it would be nice if they spoke and said who they were, or just tapped them on the shoulder and spoke or something, instead of just skirting around them and not talking at all. I was talking to somebody in the community today, and they found that really hard, that people approaching them didn't say their names, or they, you know, and of course if you're blind you can't see the person coming. It would be nice if the person said their name and that, so they could carry on as normal, because these people can carry on as normal.
Okay, well, we'd like to thank you both for speaking with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now we have Constable McDougall from the local RCMP detachment with the court report.
On November 20th, the provincial court was again held in Burgeo. 7 persons appeared on that date in the provincial court to face various charges. 2 young people, 2 young males from Burgeo, pled guilty to possession of narcotics. They were sentenced to 9 months of probation and 40 hours of community service each. 2 young males from the Rame area entered not guilty pleas to a charge of mischief under the criminal code, and their trial was set down for February 26, 1997. A 23-year-old male from the Francois area pled guilty to a charge under the Liquor Control Act and a charge under the Child Welfare Act for supplying liquor to minors, and he was sentenced to $1,200 total in fines and put on probation for a period of 3 years. A 38-year-old male, originally from the Burgeo area, pled guilty to a charge of assault and a charge of breach of probation. He was sentenced to 50 days in Her Majesty's Penitentiary concurrent on each charge, and was placed on probation for a period of 3 years. And the final person that appeared in court on that date was a 42-year-old Burgeo man who went to trial on a fisheries regulations violation, possession of a salmon that exceeded the legal limit. He was found guilty and was fined a total of $500.
Stay tuned for more of This Week in Review following these words from Custom Carpet Sales.
Hello, it is I again, back to tell you about Bessie and how much she likes that custom carpet place. We was walking up the road t'other day when she stopped right dead in her tracks. Bessie, I said, "What's wrong? Is your rheumatiz bothering you again?" "No," she said, "look up there." Well, I looked up, and looming up so pretty as a picture was custom carpet. My son, 'tis painted the prettiest blue I ever set me 2 peepers on, and trimmed with canary yellow. My dear, looks some nice, but then with all the hundreds of paints of colours you got up there to choose from, what would you expect?
Off the rack. This week as we scanned our tape racks, we decided to look at our Christmas videos and came across a video of the Girl Guides rendition of the Mummers song. Here's a look back to December 1991.
Don't seem like Christmas if the Mummers are not here. As Grandma would say, she'd be in her chair. Things are gone modern, I suppose that's because Christmas is not like it was. What's the noise outside the porch door? Granny tis Mummers, there's 20 or more. Her old weathered face lightens up with a grin. Any Mummers, next Mummers, loud in. Come in, lovely Mummers, don't bother the snow. We can wipe up the water, sure, after you go. Stay still. And that one's a stranger at the river was one, with his underwear stuffed and his trapdoor undone. He's wearing his mother's big 42 bra. God knows what I'm not gonna say. Don't suppose you find mummers would turn down a drop. The homebrew or alky, whatever you got. Now the one with his rubber boots on the round feet, got enough more to do in a whole week. The chicken dance, yes, they all nod their heads, and they're tapping their feet ever since they came in. Now that the drinks have been all passed around, the mummers are planking her down. Be careful the lamps and hold on to the stove. Don't swing Penny hard, cause you know that she's old. No need more to care how you buckles the floor, cause mummers have danced here before. By God, how wide it is, we better go. I let we all get the devil's uncoat. Good night and good Christmas, mummers dear. Please God, we will see you next year. Good night and good Christmas, mummers me dear. Please God, we will see you next year.
BBS Playbill. Tune in on Tuesday at 7 p.m. for a rebroadcast of Pansy's Garden. Then at 7:30 p.m. we will have a family guide to diabetes. Due to the school holiday on Tuesday, BBS West Viking tutorial service will be on Wednesday instead of Tuesday from 8 to 11 p.m. Also on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. we will have a video entitled Diabetes. Join us on Thursday at 7 p.m. for a rebroadcast of the season premiere of The Bandwagon. The Bandwagon will be followed at 7:30 p.m. by self-blood glucose monitoring. And at 8 p.m. Mr. Benight will be here to help students with their schoolwork on BBS West Viking College tutorial service. Tune in on Friday at 7:30 p.m. for Diabetes, a Teacher's Responsibility. And on Saturday morning, join Marie, Melissa, and Pansy, 11 a.m. for Pansy's Garden. And I'll be here again next week with This Week in Review. Please stay tuned now for the season premiere of The Bandwagon. For This Week in Review, I'm Dave Cooper. Good night.